Well, I became a bit of a boogeyman for Riot, and writers are afraid of seeing their tweets in my videos now. But in League of Legends, only two things are true. People will never be happy about skins, and it is always the jungler's fault. And today, it just so happens to be that we are talking about one of these topics. See, throughout the last year, the monetization of League of Legends had its fair share of drama. Be it throughout the entire Coven skin drama, which, to be fair, that was driven by the community, or how Jhin introduced the first $200 skin into League of Legends, after which Echo got to continue that trend. Well, funnily enough, the outcome of all of that is that quickly, people just gave up. Nobody is really mad anymore, but everyone remained a bit disappointed. Which is why, suddenly, pricing and skin quality became a sensitive topic. And only last week, another piece of wood dropped into that fire. Now don't worry, it's nothing horrifying, it's not like Riot is doing anything awful. At least, just yet. And as we talk about all of this, you have to keep in mind that you have to look at this from the perspective of a developer keeping a live service alive. It's the same thing as the $200 Jhin skin. Targeting whales so that they can pay for the development? That's fine. Indirectly preying on people with addictions at the same time? Not the best. And so here we also got a topic that has two sides. And as it tends to be, of course, it all originates from Reddit. Oh no, it originates from Twitter. And specifically it came from Drew Levin, the product and strategy lead at Riot Games, who is specifically on League of Legends. And yes, you may also remember him from some of the past devlogs. This entire conversation sprawled from SpiderX asking if the Neo pack skins would be returning to the Mythic store. To which Drew answered that the Neo versions would, but the normal pack skins wouldn't. Anyway, it was very clever from SpiderX to limit the conversation so only Drew could reply. I can imagine what the collected community would say. And as the conversation kept going, we got more information. SpiderX continued by asking if the price would be locked at the cap of 200 Mythic Essence. To which we got the answer that it was never stated that the price cap would be 200 Mythic Essence. It is true that it was confirmed that the prestige skins would be kept at 200, but outside of that, they may be teasing that there are pricier things to come. Nothing confirmed though. After which SpiderX pointed out that back in 2018, the original price of the Neo skins was 200 Mythic Essence, and Drew agreed that it is likely that they would stay around that price, but there is more to that conversation. After which, someone simply asked, Neopack Sivir on Reroll when? Which is where we got an interesting answer. I genuinely want us to stop putting all of our stuff in rerolls. I think it's bad for system clarity, and think it muddies what the point of the system even is. Rerolls are an emergent property of the duplicate protection rules of loot. But that, plus adding all new content to loot, created a bizarre system where there's perpetual discount on all content forever. And the most efficient path to future content is buying stuff you don't use. This is interesting, because it might be hard to wrap your head around what he just said. So, just so you know, we are indeed talking about whales. Simply said, the more stuff you buy, the more control you have over what you will reroll, because you can't reroll into something you already own. So at a certain point, you can actually snowball your collection, and you can start using shards to reroll into the more expensive skins. And this especially becomes true after you cap off your collection and you start re-rolling into all the prestige skins, which are supposed to be more than double the price. But this is also tied into the fact that if you buy all the passes and you do all the events, you will get a lot of shards, and if you re-roll those, that counts as a massive discount. Because re-rolling those shards is a lot cheaper than buying entire skins. But of course the downside of that is the randomness. But again, the more you wailed, the more you have control over this. But the main point of this entire conversation still stems from the very first line. I genuinely want us to stop putting all of our stuff in rerolls. To a lot of people, this is a direct teaser that Riot is thinking about reworking how the entire reroll system works. It is possible that League will have some new cosmetics in the future that will not be in the reroll system. which would also technically make it more limited. So already, not everyone was happy about where this conversation was going. However, as always, there is more context that shouldn't be ignored. And in fact, Drew dives deeper into this in his next reply. When Muruzond, I see the irony, asked about how this system could be changed and how it should be fine to give the whale some discount, Drew came back with a reply that is split into 3 main points. First of all, for anyone who hasn't been playing League forever and read every wiki and Reddit thread, it's incomprehensible. There is a bunch of currencies and you're supposed to optimize what you do and don't disenchant. Try to explain to a new player sometime. This is absolutely true, and what many of you may not realize is that in the past, things were even worse. The original version of the loot boxes, back when the events had their own separate currencies, and yes, it wasn't just tokens, events actually had 2 separate currencies, with their own keys and chests. Things were not great, though these days they also added some new Mythic essence on top of that, so things are still not great. But yes, this is an issue that not only League has, but pretty much every game with loot boxes has. It is just confusing to use. And if Riot plans to simplify it somehow, that would be good for everyone. The second point Drew goes into is how the reroll system is a discount for everyone. Yes, it's a discount, but in general, it's better if the ways of getting value for money are more straightforward than press 800 buttons to receive a discount. I'm not arguing against value for money. I'm arguing for clarity and creating clear paths to getting what you're after. This is actually good to hear. The argument is not, it's a discount and therefore Riot makes less money. It's more about, it's just confusing if the best way to save money is to roll on a gambling machine with different currencies. At least that's with the purpose of rolling as much as possible so that your future rolls have a higher chance of giving you something better. Even with me just explaining it like this, it sounds awful. And lastly, there is the third point. Right now, we give out, in Champion Masteries, up to 50 shards a year. If you buy all the passes and level 50 them, taking Lunar New Year Pass as an example, you get 10 from pass and 10 from tokens, so 20 shards per. If we do 5 passes a year, that is 150 shards, which is 50 skins, for 8,250 RP plus playing each week. See, if you look at this number, that's a lot of skins for that kind of price. But all of you should remember that when it comes to getting value for your money, it's all subjective. We are not dealing with items that shift price based on demand. It is all digital goods and Riot are the ones who set the price. So trying to min-max value for money is incredibly unhealthy in this environment. Don't do this because there is no winning. The price will never be adjusted. There is only pain. But after that, we got a really good point that was brought up by Shax. The frustration I see in players is that generally the token farm allows you to reach 2000 tokens. And when everything is spent on the prestige skin, this frustrates. Wouldn't it be possible to give the prestige skin to a pass reward and the tokens free to spend on other things? To which Drew replied, it's a fair question. I think there is probably some ceiling on how many skins we want to give for 1650 RP. But yeah, what you're saying is viable for sure. We'll take it back to the product team. So yes, we got a teaser that Riot is willing to change the system. And honestly, everyone would like this. The truth is, the point of the pass is really to give you your 2000 tokens so you can buy the prestige skin. If you manage to get anything extra, you probably had to grind. Which sucks because to many it is as if the other rewards didn't even exist. So a change there would be really good. And lastly, Drew gave us one more important reply. This is a response to a question about people hoarding currencies so they can aim for specific skins in the future. Entirely heard. No matter what you have spent on will have and maintain fair value. Part of what I dislike is that orange essence, like you said, is worthless. In my opinion, that's kind of a shit outcome to remove that value from you. I want people to get their money's worth. So again, the point is not to give people less skins so they have to pay for League. It's to make the entire system not about min-maxing money. After which, we got one more reply that really stuck with people. And they started to ignore all other context. I think it's harder for me to wrap my head around spending thousands of dollars gives you a perpetual 70% discount on future content. Nowhere and nothing else in the world does this. And it wasn't an intentional design choice. I hear you on vaulting it, it's just tough to get my head around. Of course, what people clang onto is the why should we give whales a discount? Well, truth be told, and this comes from someone who has a red diploma in logistics and economy, every time you see the big discounts around the world, which involves you buying more so you have to pay less, it is a trick and you are likely to fall for it. All products have a certain value, that's the profits that goes to the seller. The job of the seller is to sell as many products as possible with the highest value possible. But that's not to say that they can't lower the value a little bit if they get to sell more products. The issue with those bundles is that you always have to buy more than you need or more than you would use. Of course, this is not always the case. I don't think anyone's gonna be mad about a big packet of toilet paper. But in the vast majority of cases, it is a trick to make you pay more than you would have otherwise. And that's the key point. It made you pay more, even though in your head it looks like you paid less. And yes, it doesn't matter that you were given more products because to them those products usually have really low production cost. So, going back to what Drew said. He is technically wrong about other companies not giving a discount to whales. But it's just that in those cases, those companies just turn you into their stable income, which is still just a pure profit to them. But here's the thing, at the same time, Drew is right. And there is no real reason to give the whales a discount if they already bought a lot of skins. This might be a hot take, but if you are a whale, the chances are you can afford it. If you can't, or if you have an addiction, that is a whole separate problem. But if you are whaling from the business's perspective, of course it wouldn't make too much sense. In fact, the opposite would make sense, and I don't mean making things more expensive for the whales. I mean, it would make sense to help all the people who are not paying a lot for League of Legends. Because they don't have the option to whale. Maybe that's where the focus should be. But as of right now, unfortunately, if the reroll system gets changed, those might be damaged the most. So if that happens, there might be some kind of an uprising. Because remember, the vast majority of League's players are free to play. Limiting the reroll system would literally affect the majority of the players. Which is also why everyone is closely watching this debate. In my opinion, I would be happy if they just kept the system as it is. Yes, it is confusing to new players, but in a way, it works for everyone. Maybe just do something with orange essence, no one has any idea what to do with that. But also, maybe it just works because people are used to this system. And if there is anything the player base hates, it is change. Which is why people will never be happy about skins, and it is always the jungler's fault. It always is.